has to be in writing
by the 19th, otherwise it will not.
And the letter that they gave us, lists who to send it to.
If not, email me tomorrow morning because I have it. In fact, I may have it with me. I brought some of the stuff with me. I have everybody's. I got everybody to give me their letters. So this is, here it is. It's just
Karen,
some
can
of
you
the
hear
letters.
us?
I can you hear me?
Okay, I just want to make sure. Yep, okay, thank you.
No, it will not be by email. It has
Oh,
to be
it
by
has to be-
Okay, so
Snail
you're,
mail.
Snail mail.
snail mail or personally delivered.
you are on YouTube,
And
Margie.
I'm sorry,
You are live,
I am live on,
and I'm hesitant to mute.
yes, okay. I will give that all later. Then let's go. Since we have 4 people and it's 4 o'clock, I would say let's go. Okay, this is the August meeting of the Town of New Shoreham Planning Board. I want to officially call it to order for 4 p.m. today. The first thing on the agenda is a public hearing for proposed amendments. The New Shoreham Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, proposed amendments to multiple sections of the New Shoreham Land Development and Subdivision Regulations to bring these regulations into compliance with state law changes effective January 1, 2024. Proposed amendments include sections that concern 106, adoption and amendments of regulations, 201, definitions, 301, general procedures, 908, changes to approved plans and plats, and 1100, development plan review. I will turn this over to our land use lawyer, Karen Browning. Karen?
Hello, so this is more of the effort by your staff and your consultant, Weston Sampson, to come into conformance with the new state laws regarding land use and zoning. I'm happy to, walk you through or answer any questions that you might have, but again, it's just kind of more of the same in terms of coming into compliance.
Okay, so you want to start with the first one?
Sure. So the first one is section 106, adoption and amendment of regulations. This one has to do with when any part of the subdivision regulations are being amended. There's some notice changes. There was a universal change throughout the statute to also include some notice on the municipal, all cities and towns websites. So that was added. Just kind of glossing through it, some of the highlights. But some, additional notice requirements, but those are just changes that we have to comply with. Moving down to section 301, general procedures. A lot of this ordinance and others, there's some cleanup because you now have development plan review discussion in your subdivision regs. And also the planning board is not always the permitting authority. Now that you also have, different bodies involved, your AO, your TRC, things like that. So you'll see those changes. Those are really just to make the ordinance or the subdivision regs consistent with your ordinance and other documents. What else? We have a classification of our process, a little clarity where the administrative officer advises the applicant as to the category of approval. Nothing new there. That was something that was done before under pre-application meetings. This is just a little clarification. So that's pretty much the highlights on this one.
Okay, any questions or comments?
No.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, let's see, the next one is,
So it's a public hearing. You're holding a public hearing, so you just need to ask if anyone in the audience, and
oh,
then
sorry.
you make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
when you're-
Is there anyone in the audience that has questions or comments?
On item 1. for
Item,
public
item,
hearing.
item 1 only. And nobody in the second chance, nobody on the board has any comments or questions.
No.
In that case, I will make a motion that the proposed amendments that I mentioned and listed earlier be approved
Well, first, could you just close the public hearing?
Oh, sorry. I
Thank
make
you.
a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then second of all, I will make a motion that we approve the proposed changes to the amendments to make the regulations in compliance with state law changes that went into effect January 1 of this year. Socia seconds. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, number 2. Also amendment to the zoning ordinance for compliance with state law. Review draft amendments. Our consultants were Weston and Sampson. And it is a comprehensive permit ordinance section 412 of the zoning ordinance. And again, Karen, if you will walk us through this.
Sure, so this one is specific to comprehensive permits. I'm not sure how many of these the town sees on an annual basis, but comprehensive permits are reserved for low and moderate income housing projects. It's a process under state law that provides a kind of a faster, more combined process to get affordable housing projects through the permitting process a little faster. You'll see a lot of underlying text in this one. Again, that is because there was a lot of information from the new state law that needed to be brought in. So I think, I mean, there's really not a lot here that is negotiable, with the exception, you will see a couple of comments by me in the margin talking about policy questions. The text that is being referred to is text right from the law, but it does give the town council the ability to make a change. So I've noted those for the council. Should you decide to send a positive recommendation to the council for this ordinance amendment, they will then see that note and they can take that up. So nothing for you to do on those 2 comments involving policy questions, unless you feel you want to include that or some information on that as part of your recommendation to the council, should you feel there should be a change. So that's that. Again, especially as you get down towards the bottom, you're going to see a lot of crossed out text, and then you're going to see a lot of underlined text. And the reason was because there was just so many changes, it just became easier to strike out all the existing and put in the new, with the understanding that some of the language was actually already in your ordinance. It just would have been a mess for Weston Sampson to have to redline every little word change. So that's why you'll see a lot of underlined text towards the end. And then I want to check one thing. That's good. And I think that's it on that one, unless there's any questions.
My only question has to do with page 2 with your comment about removing that one paragraph or section of paragraph that was put in, which really does not apply to Block Island. Is that for us to remove, or is that our recommendation to the town council to remove?
It's up to you. That language is what's in the state law. So as you know, I typically favor following the state law if and when you can. It doesn't harm you to leave it in because it certainly doesn't apply. That's clear. But at least it tracks the same language. There's no confusion when somebody looks around general law and they look at your ordinance, they match. If you prefer to take it out, you can certainly do that. It doesn't do anything about the state law. That still is in effect. So it's really up to you. If you want to strike that, you can. If you want to keep it, you can. That can be part of your recommendation.
Okay. How does the board feel about this? I would probably leave it, but I have no problem taking it out either. Okay.
I too felt like it was a lot more than we needed because it doesn't apply to us, but now that you've said that it's better to leave it because then it mirrors the language of the state, that's fine to keep it, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, then I think our recommendation will be that while it does not apply to us, we would recommend leaving it in just because it follows state law. Any other questions or comments for Karen?
I do have a question, Margie or Karen, about on page 2, number 7. I just didn't seem to process that, the meeting the local housing needs. Are there implementation programs, approved for affordable housing plan? There seem to be, I don't know, I was just looking for more clarity on that. On number 7, page 2,
Okay, hold on, meeting.
the meeting the local housing needs
Yep,
means as a result of the adaptation of the implementation program of an approved affordable housing plan. Is that, I should know, is that in place, an approved plan? And
Sure
okay.
is.
so let me just get the heading on this. So that is under consistent with local needs, which
Yeah.
is so that is just saying that when a hearing is happening, there are certain things that the permitting authority has to look at. So there are several, as you noted, numbers. So hold on, I think I just, no, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's really, it's town by town, and it determines whether or not the project is consistent with the local needs. Number 7, meaning that it meets the local housing needs that are outlined in the approved affordable housing plan,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
it does. Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one more question if I can.
Sure,
Maria,
go ahead.
on page 3, Karen, where you made that note in the comment,
Mhm.
do you see that on C, number 2?
Yes,
If council agrees it has such a housing plan in place and also agrees that it wants to adopt such a limit, this language is appropriate. What's your take on if the council wanting to adopt such a limit? Are you making,
no,
That
I have
change?
no,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I have no opinion. The reason why the comment was put in there was because when I was going through the draft, I will typically take the draft and then I'll put the state law up on another screen, and I'm going through line by line to make sure that everything is consistent. In this particular case, I noticed that there was some language in the state law that actually allowed the council to change that, I think it's the 1%. Yes, the ability to limit the annual total number of dwelling units in the comp permit applications. So the 1% is fine if that's what the town wants to do. The purpose of the comment is only to point out that the town council does have some ability to tweak that.
Okay,
Okay, so we definitely want to leave that.
Yes, I would leave that so the council can decide.
Okay. And as I look through the rest of it, I think pretty much it's up to the council to decide. Unless you have any other questions. Okay,
no, another question.
all right. Then I would suggest that we send a favorable recommendation to the town council with the one comment about that we would leave on page 2, that paragraph in, just so that it will conform with the way the state has it written. Okay, any further questions or comments from either the board or the audience? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Karen. All right, number 3. Department of Environmental Management, discuss and act on an application for permission to alter freshwater wetlands for the end of Highview Lane, which is Ambrose Swamp. Numbers 22-0209, AP 8 lots 131, 130, I'm sorry, 233, 231 and 233, 236 to 240, 242 and 253. Okay. Now, as I understand this, this is for the planning board to make some comments and recommendations, list of concerns, et cetera, so that when the town goes to send to the Department of Environmental Management, DEM. They will have our discussion to base some of their comments on. So I'll go ahead and start. I went through and listed a number of concerns that I think we want to mention. And I could go through and read them one by one, and we can discuss them, or I can read them all, and then we can add whatever I missed that you want to put in. How would you like me to do it?
Read them all.
One by one? Or read them all? I don't want my board.
Whatever is comfortable for you.
Either way.
Okay, supposing I read them all, and then we'll go back and take them one by one for comments and questions.
Okay.
That way you can see how I was thinking, and if you want to alter stuff, I just thought it was easier to work from something than trying to go through.
Uh-huh.
And I went through some of the letters which various people have sent, different organizations such as the let's see, Black Island Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, Sue Gibbons, and then in talking with other people, which is how I came up with my list. One is wildlife. It would hurt the wildlife, nesting birds, migrants, the deer, muskrats, voles, and frogs, etc. The wetlands, very concerned about that. And we'll talk about pollution down the road in a couple of minutes. 3, light pollution, excessive noise. 5, the bridge. There was nothing about maintenance on it. There will be very heavy trucks, runoff with leaking fluids, heavy metals, etc. The sewer line is to go underneath the bridge attached to it. And I'm concerned about particularly leaks, but particularly any small undetected leak that could go on for days or weeks, and what it could do to destroy the wetlands. We want to take a look at the freshwater flow as it goes from the swamp to the ocean. And then I think there are 2 things that we should probably hit very carefully from a town perspective. One, that this does not fit into the neighborhood. The bridge is very large. It is only slightly smaller than what one would find at Champlin's. And it certainly is much more industrial looking than what you would find in a small neighborhood. And second is the unintended consequences, which would be such things as increased traffic, additional runoff on the roads, again, the noise and light pollution, and it would probably result in the change of habitat such as for the shrubs and so forth that are used by the migrating birds and the waterfowl. And last but not least, it would set a dangerous precedent if it were approved, because it is a huge structure, and who knows who else might want to try and do something similar. And last of all, we want to make sure, and I've talked to Allison about this, and she's not here today, but she has some thoughts about how it does not fit in with the comp plan. So those are my thoughts.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Anything you want to add to the wildlife, such as I've got down here, birds, turtles, deer, muskrats, voles, migrating birds, both migrating and nesting. And audience, if you have thoughts, yes, go ahead, Roberta.
Just on that note, and Sue Gibbons mentioned in her letter, the people did the application, did have a habitat survey, but they did it in December. So they said they found limited wildlife, which you would in December. Just want to make that.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you. I did not know that it was done in December, so that's a useful piece of information. They,
Wildlife survey.
It's in Sue's letter. He mentioned that it was done in
Yeah.
December.
I know that in the Nature Conservancy letter, they mentioned a number of different kinds of birds, and which is their area of expertise. So I'm going to hit more on the doesn't fit in the neighborhood, comp plan, that kind of thing, because that's the town needs to push on that. Those are areas that we are considered quote experts. Okay. Wetlands, and again, that kind of overlaps all of it, but pollution of the wetlands, both for with the sewer possibilities. We also are talking about light pollution and noise. But if the wetlands area is destroyed, then that loses the habitat for a number of both migrant birds and nesting birds. Roberta, go ahead. What else?
Add to that, and that's in the letter too, but we all know we're a single source aquifer. And wetlands are critical to maintaining our aquifer. And the town of New Shoreham, as they're in a comprehensive plan, has a whole paragraph on storms and the importance of storms. And how important it is to keep our water quality.
Okay.
where we are. We all have skin in the game, because if that aquifer gets polluted, it's gonna be devastating.
Yeah, that is true. However, the aquifer is very, very deep. So it's some of it, just to be perfectly clear, some of it would be filtered out as it sinks through. But I have absolutely no problem including that in our list. Because we do not want to contaminate our water for any of us. Okay, light pollution, additional cars driving in and out every day would, particularly in the wintertime when it gets dark, 4:30 out here. I could see seven families, and I don't know whether they will be year-round or seasonal, but I could see a lot of extra traffic going back and forth. And if birds are disturbed, they go somewhere else. And the same thing applies with the noise pollution. Again, trucks, heavy trucks such as a cement truck going over makes a lot of noise. Delivery trucks make noise. I mean, cars are not exactly quiet. So noise pollution is certainly a concern that we want to mention. And the bridge, size is way too big for the neighborhood, in my opinion. It is also, I did not see anywhere in the material that we were given anything about a maintenance plan. And we all know how things deteriorate in the salt, air, wind, rain, etc. And again, with the heavy trucks, you're going to get runoff with gasoline, oil, whatever. And those fluids leaking into the wetlands, it would be a disaster. Okay, and the sewer, same problem. Leakage could be a major issue, particularly a very small undiscovered leak. Could be an absolute disaster to the wetlands. Anything you want to add on what I've said so far?
No, I just want to read my own statement.
Okay, when I finish.
When you're done.
Absolutely. Okay, we know that the water flows to the ocean. So it not only contaminates the swamp area, but it could contaminate anything that it flows through on the way to the ocean, to say nothing of what it will do once it gets to the ocean.
That may also be a territory for CRMC because of the connection.
That's a good point. And the next, as I said several times, this doesn't fit in the neighborhood. Industrial looking, way too large for the size of the properties and the houses. And and then we have to worry about all of the unintended consequences, such as increased traffic, additional runoff on the roads, again, the noise and light pollution, and the change in shrub habitat. And the last two things set a dangerous precedent with this huge structure that does not fit with our neighborhoods. And we also will tie it in with the comp plan on the various issues, such as you mentioned with the water. Okay, other thoughts and comments? I'll let you start, Sosha.
I feel more secure when I can read something I've written rather than,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I will revise this. I will revise my comments and send a letter to DEM because that's what they require.
The deadline is the 19th.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yep. In fact, you can send a 2-day delivery, would probably not be a bad idea.
Oh, boy. Okay, so.
Hey, I can make you send an overnight delivery. It'd be really expensive.
According to the notice from Rhode Island DEM, wetlands affected by this proposed project include Ambrose Swamp and perimeter wetlands, the area of land within 50 feet of the edge of a swamp. The proposal includes wells, a sewer force main, utilities, stormwater treatment structures, and associated landscaping. It will result in the disturbance of at least 18,020 square feet, which is 4/10 of an acre, of freshwater wetlands. The proposed roadway will cross approximately 470 linear feet of swamp and its 50-foot perimeter wetlands. And now I'm talking from my perspective. This proposal runs contrary to the philosophy and goals of the Comprehensive Plan of New Shoreham, which states, quote, "The protection of the natural habitats and population on Block Island continues to be a priority of the town of New Shoreham and its citizens, so that the island remains ecologically healthy. One of the plan's goals is to, quote, review and strengthen the current regulations, not loosen them. Wetlands do more than provide a healthy habitat for plants and animals. They are also carbon sinks, which help slow down the warming of the planet. According to the book Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, written by a 70-member international coalition from 22 countries and validated by a 120-person advisory board, explains that, quote, "Wetlands store 5 times more carbon than forests. They are the nurseries for wildlife, a natural filtration system for chemical runoff, provide a haven for migratory birds, and protect against storm surges as well as flooding," quote, end of quote. In addition, peat, also found in Ambrose Swamp, sequesters 2 times more carbon than forests. Disturbing this habitat will only increase the amount of carbon in our atmosphere. The proposal before us does the exact opposite of what the comprehensive plan strives for. The construction of a 471-foot pile-supported wooden bridge, the use of pile driving and construction equipment, and the runoff from vehicles driving over the bridge will only negatively impact Ambrose Swamp. The project will destroy wildlife, plants, and habitat, as well as decrease our resilience against global warming and climate change. That's it.
Good, thank you. Okay. Chris, you got anything to add that we've missed or you want to emphasize?
Well, I just think it sets a terrible precedent, considering that it's contradictory to what I think the DM's purpose and mission is in our comprehensive plan. It is a massive structure. I don't think people can wrap their head, like, it's huge, 20 feet wide.
Yeah, well, it's only slightly smaller than
Champlain's
Champlain's.
Made up.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And which leads to a whole host of other questions is, you know, there's underground utilities proposed for development, which I have questions regarding. I just don't like the cluster development in that location. I don't know how it's going to actually, I didn't do any of the numbers as far as lot coverage, et cetera, but that's a whole different area. But it's not specific on whether or not the water and sewer are going to be installed as this is being built. It just says, it's going to accommodate it for the future. I don't know what that means. Because if they just put the bridge in and then they want to go put in sewer and water later, that means they're going to have to do, you know, just going to disturb it further, or are they going to do it all at once? It's not specific in here. I have a serious concerns with emergency vehicle access, fire trucks, the capacity of this thing. You have the construction of the bridge itself, which is going to be, you can certainly argue, detrimental to the wetland because it's through the middle of it. Like, it's through the middle of a flag wetland. I can't grasp. It's like, I'm like, not like skirting the edge, it's through the middle of it. And then once that's done, you got the construction of 7 buildings adjacent to the wetland.
One of them crosses it,
Right.
one of the buildings.
Yes.
It's troubling from a number of different angles, if you would, and so, yeah, I'm not happy with the proposal.
Good. Mary, your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks everybody for everybody's comments and people who went to the town council meeting to make comments too. I agree with everything you said today and some of the things that people said at the council meeting, Sue's letter was great. I'm glad it's in the record here today. Sue Gibbons's letter. I would just, there's not much more to add. I just wrote a few things down, Marty and Sarah and Chris, after you spoke. And the bridge maintenance, yes, it's not known, neither is how the bridge is constructed and the amount of disturbance that would occur under the construction of the bridge while the bridge is under construction. What else? Just to wrap your brain about the linear feet, a football field is 360 feet. This bridge is 470. The disturbance of almost a half an acre of land is disturbing in itself. I agree with, that's really all I have to add. I'm happy that Allison informed us that our town engineer, Jim Jeremia, will be writing a letter. I think that's probably there already, delivered by hand by him. I know the deadline is the 19th. But I was happy that the town council had directed the town manager to prepare a letter objecting to the application based on the letters that they received, the comments they received, the wetlands biologist comments, and our town engineer comments. It's all that I can think of to add that wasn't already said.
Great, thank you. Comments from the audience?
Just one more, I'm not a lawyer, but I know sometimes. people-
You want to, since we brought this for the record, you need to come up and use the microphone, please. And make sure you turn it on so there's a little green light.
Green lights on, no, did it?
Oh, there you go. Got it. I don't know if this is at all relevant. I'm not a lawyer, but I know sometimes people claim hardship, but I feel as though these people created their own hardship when they bought that property. They knew it was landlocked. They knew if they ever want to build it on it, there was going to be a problem. So, they created their own problem. And I don't think it's up to us to solve it by putting in allowing them to put in a 471-foot bridge and then build 7 houses on those lots, which are 0.22, 0.24 acre, which is now and I understand there are lots of records, but that's a 3-acre zone now. And they're trying to build houses on 0.22, 7 of them. And they have a house here, which is on the market. It's just all for greed and they're just going to do it and leave. I don't know if we can work that in anywhere, but it shouldn't be claiming hardship if that ends up coming up.
Good, thank you. Okay, anyone else got comments? Good, go ahead. And again, I think, Roberta, did you turn off the light?
I did.
Okay, then I'll make sure.
It's that conservation.
Little,
Right.
yeah, down at the bottom, little green light there to make sure it's on.
There's a block.
I did, and it's, I'm here with Scenic Block Island, obviously, but I just brought this, with me because I did speak to the town council about this point, which has nothing to do with the environment so much. But it is a point that, Nancy and Sharon and I go through all these historic records, that go back hundreds and hundreds of years. And I just thought I should include some of the history of what goes
Yes.
on in a swamp like, Ambrose. And I did send a letter to DEM last week. As you know, we spend hours looking, perusing town records for names of original owners for islands, historic buildings, and we do that for the historic plaques. As I go back into these records, there is often a mention of tug holes and peat. Black Islanders dug peat. Peat was a vital commodity for about 200 years or more. Peat was a mixture of rotted vegetation found at the bottom of swamps, such as Ambrose Swamp. The islanders dug and tugged peat, it was called tugging it out, from the swamps. They dried it into medium-sized balls, kept them dry, and that was their source of heat for 200 years. It's amazing how filthy and smelly it was, and islanders could always carried a peculiar odor whenever the mainlanders came or they went there. It's like, you stink. But the land records of the time likely contained verbiage for the seller to continue access or for the buyer to gain access to this important recess. It was often noted tug and peat privileges were part of the deed transfer. Homeowners retained the tug and peat privileges rights. And then we went on to, I just wanted to mention that Ambrose Swamp was named after Ambrose Rose, which is Mike Shade's house, which abuts the swamp. And I just know it's not an obvious reason, environmental or anything, but I thought a historic side note was interesting.
I looked at some of those records a number of years ago to figure out how Johnny Tug Hole got its name.
Yeah.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that, Cindy. Okay, other comments? Okay. Any last thoughts from the board?
None from me, thanks.
Okay. Then I think the consensus is that the planning board definitely feels that the town should oppose the construction of the bridge, and that our recommendation to DEM would be to deny it.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, if you will convey that on to town council and to the town manager. I would love to have our own letter going. If we could get it. Yeah. I can send it, we need to get it in the mail because I'm quite sure they mean to stick with the 19th from what I was told.
Do you want mine still?
Yeah, why don't you give? Okay.
My name on it because I
Yeah.
never do.
And I have my list here, and you have notes from, I don't know whether Mary had any notes that she can pass along or not, but if we have this, we can refer to. Okay, number 4, Scenic Block Island. Discussion with Scenic Block Island regarding scenic roadway designation. Do we have a spokesperson? Oh,
Do I have to recuse myself, Margie?
what?
If I'm on, do I have to recuse myself?
No, we're not taking any votes or anything on this.
Okay.
You don't benefit in any way.
Hi, my name is John Lehman, and I'm here representing Scenic Block Island, although these other
Is
five.
it turned on? Yeah, all right, then push the mic kind of up like this, so it's
There you go. How's that? Better?
better, yeah. And then you try to talk into it.
Okay, my name is still John Lehman, and I'm here representing Scenic Block Island with all the rest of these nice people. And we hope you've had a chance to read the documents that we sent in. The state of Rhode Island established Scenic Highway Board over 25 years ago in recognition of the beauty of many of our roads. The state board interprets its purposes as the following. Scenic vistas in Rhode Island are a very important part of its beauty, natural environment, history, and culture of Rhode Island, both to persons living in Rhode Island and its visitors. Identifying, designating, promoting, protecting, and preserving scenic roadways has a valuable aesthetic, cultural, social, and economic benefits to our citizens, and I should have said quote and unquote. While many towns in the state have been receiving this designation for one or specific roads within their borders, the previous chairman of the state board, Mike DeLuca, who's very familiar with Block Island, has indicated that our roads already meet many of the criteria for the designation. So it allows for a step removed. The Board of Scenic Block Island feels that the time has come for us to start protecting our beautiful roads and vistas. At the very least, this designation will be a source of pride for our island. In addition, this designation will give the owners of the property along our roads and all our residents a sense of stewardship in protecting and preserving these aesthetics of our roads and vistas along these roads. In the future, this designation can help our town develop guidelines for development along our roads. The state board exists to help towns and property owners make decisions that enhance rather than detract from the landscape once they have been granted scenic highway designation. Scenic Block Island strongly feels the time has come for this council to realize that we are in danger of losing some of what makes our island so special. We're already seeing subtle signs of gentrification, new stone walls being constructed that do not look like all our older stone walls, dirt and shell driveways being replaced with fancy pavers or asphalt, fences going up and plantings along the side of the road with potential for obstructing long-range vistas. We need help to educate property owners as to what type of changes will enhance our roads and which changes need to be rethought. Having the designation of Rhode Island Scenic Highway will allow us access to the resources of the state board should we want to do so. Having this designation does not obligate us to do anything other than acknowledge the intrinsic value of our roads and vistas. But it is a starting point should the time arise when we feel we need specific guidelines for future development. At that point, we can seek guidance from the State Board of Scenic Highways. Our board feels this is an opportunity we now need to take advantage of. We're in danger of being seriously impacted if safeguards are not in place. And we're asking the planning board, as the town board that has the lead on this designation in other towns, to discuss this important opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, what can we, or what do you want from us? I guess that's my question.
I think what we would like from you is your understanding, your backing. It isn't a huge amount of things, but it's a process that keeps us from having stone pillars that are engraved with things that don't look like anything that is on Block Island anywhere else. We have, as you aware, a lot of bigger houses with different kinds of driveways. We have more macadam driveways. And I think there's probably other things that are attendant to those that will be ameliorated by the acceptance of this kind of a process.
Do these, does this designation, is it limited to state roads on Block Island only or town roads as well?
I believe it's both. Is that?
Both, okay.
It's interesting because it's a state decision.
I'm not sure it's a state decision.
No.
The state, I think, has this department. It's a local decision,
Oh,
and I think
okay.
it's a application to the state to acknowledge our interest in that. Somebody will jump in there if I'm not correct.
If it's a town designation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can make a recommendation. We could probably make a recommendation.
Yeah.
If you, that would be of help to you.
I
guys.
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, well, I'm sure what we need from you is you.
Sorry, my voice is hoarse. We need a lead board. We can't hold a hearing, and a public hearing has to be held in order to make this happen. And we can't pull a public hearing together. You guys can. So it's actually outlined very carefully in the documents that I gave you, what the procedure is. There has to be public support. So basically what we're trying to do is make a recommendation that this is important for our community right now. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but for example, when you drive from Westerly to Wakefield, as you probably noticed on Route 1, it looks exactly the same as it has for forever, for many, many, many years. Even though it's only been 25 years that Scenic Roadways has been enforced, that area has not been changed because of the Scenic Roadways requirements. So they're not punitive. They don't punish people for making bad choices, but they make recommendations that can be used to help people educate people who are, for example, asking to cut into a stone wall, how they should handle that, how they should connect with the road. There are other advantages that I'm not as familiar with that I'm going to actually defer to Mike on, that are probably more important as a town. But what we need from you is you all have to take the lead on it. We will do anything we can to support that, or paperwork or envelopes or letters or help at a hearing, but only you can hold the public hearing that has to happen in order to endorse this. Do you mind talking about?
Is Karen is still on?
Karen, are you?
Yeah, I'm here. Jen, I can barely hear you. Could you?
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Everyone? Okay. I saw that your screen come on, so I wasn't sure if you had any comments.
Yeah, I just want to, just a small point of clarification. It's my understanding that it would be the town council that would have to be the lead to make the request of Rhode Island DOT as, under the procedures for the designation of scenic roadways, A2, the governing body of any municipality may apply.
Okay,
That's
so,
that
so we,
council.
so we went to the town council 2 years ago and asked them to do this, and they said they were referring it to the planning board. That was never done. So we have come back again to revisit it. And we were instructed by the town council to bring it before the planning board. So you
Yeah, so
guys can toss it
that's
around all you
fine.
want, but
That's not what I'm saying, but to the
Yeah.
point that the planning board has to be the lead, that's not really correct. It would be the town council that's the lead, but the process is fine, to come before
Gotcha.
planning and have a discussion and possibly get a recommendation one way or the other to the council.
Then if the council wants to refer something back to us,
they can do so.
they could do so. But
Okay.
I agree with Karen, because we had a number of, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but didn't we have a number of this discussion on scenic Block Island
Yes.
back when Mary Newhouse was
Yes.
chair?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, and again, it has to go to from what I remember, and believe me, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It has to go to the town council, and then they can designate somebody or some groups of somebodies to go forward however we choose to do.
Okay, so that's great, but we've already done that.
Yeah.
And they basically ignored us. So,
But if we send we can send a recommendation
True.
to the town council. So let's try that. Well, if,
Great.
if the group votes yes.
Can I just
Okay.
ask Karen, it's on, this agenda item says, discussion with scenic Block Island regarding scenic roadway, designation. Do you want it to be on the next month's agenda with act, or can they just send something to the town council?
I think since it's just, an advisory, it's not binding,
Okay,
I think it would be fine.
perfect.
We'd be okay
Thank
to
you.
do that.
yeah, that sounds, that's what we got, you know.
Let's start with that. Let's start with that and see where it goes.
Do you want to ask any more questions? You want to just do it this way?
I have a question.
I think we do have a few questions.
Okay,
Let me start with what, this applies, just to clarify, so I make sure I understand. This applies to all state and town roads, is that correct? Okay, and what about dirt roads? Those are town roads, okay. Yeah, I'm not talking about a private driveway that serves like 3 people. Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm gonna let Mike, and I'll jump in.
yeah. Well, we do have another podium over there with a thing, so that's fine.
I just think the things I want to add are, scenic roadway is not an enforcement. I mean, it's just recommendations and, for better judgment on just different projects that go on. Realistically, I don't see a lot of things happening out here. I think for the most part, people do the right thing. But it just might be a push to do them, you know, that fits in a little better.
Yeah.
One example, I think Nancy started to say in South Kingston, that stretch of Route 1 is designated scenic roadway. They had to put in guardrails because it's a divided highway there. And if you notice, they have them brown as opposed to the galvanized
Yeah.
ones. And that was because give it a little more of an earth tone, something to fit in it. You had to have the guardrails there because for safety reasons, but it's a way to just maybe lighten it a little bit, make it fit in a little bit better. We know the guardrails are a hot button issue out here. There will be a lot of work being done on the state roads in the near future. I just think this is something that we can utilize. I know there's a lot of spots we'd love to get rid of the guardrails. That's not realistic, but if they have to go in, it might be something that fits better within the island character.
So I'm still at the questioning stage. What does the work that's necessary look like? Do we have work sessions with the planning board and Scenic Block Island? whose recommendations are going to go into that proposal? Because they're going to be recommendations, right?
Yes, that would go, if I'm understanding correctly, that would go to the board, at RIDOT. If you come across a plan in front of the planning board for whatever work is going to be done within the right of way, we can get guidance from the Scenic Roadways Board if you're not liking what's proposed, and we can get alternatives from them with their input.
So,
So
But
Sonia, if I could just, I can probably help with that one. So the process is that the town council would, if they agree, would look at one or more roads that they would like to have this scenic designation. They would then submit a request to the board, which is a board under Rhode Island DOT. And there are certain criteria. If the scenic roadway being looked at meets the criteria, after a hearing of the board, they can designate it as a scenic roadway. And at that point, the road gets designated and the state will pay for some signage to make it clear that it's scenic. Once it is a scenic roadway, it is subject to certain other requirements. And those requirements would be things that the board, the DOT state board, would look at. So if there was work proposed on the roadway, along the edges of the roadway, new curb cuts, landscaping, I think there's a list of things in the regulations. The board would have, the state board would have the ability to look at that, offer potential mitigation, or say, no, we're not finding that this is a good idea, and you can't do it. In which case the property owner could appeal. So that's kind of the general overview.
so then what is the role of the planning board going to be?
There really isn't a role of the planning board, except here to, if you feel that you want to, send a recommendation to the council to take this up. But all of the designation of the roadways would happen between the council and the state board. And then going forward, any work that was proposed really should happen between the property owner, if it is the town that's doing the work, the town and the state.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies it.
It does put responsibility on Public Works Department out here too, is to keep things maintained, the grass mowed, the walls trimmed, basically all the things we do already. So it would not be a big change for DPW. But if we were to slack off and stop doing those things, well, we would have to pick them back up again and keep them looking scenic.
So as I understand it, this is another box to check on an application if you were,
Yeah.
you got to get whatever DM approval, CRMC approval, wastewater, blah, blah, blah. You have to go through scenic. You have to have,
Yeah.
so DOT would sign off on.
So the other thing is, if we are looking at a plan and we see that there's something that really does not fit with Block Island, we could recommend that they talk to the State Department Scenic Roadways about how better to landscape the front of their house, or better to site their driveway or stone wall or whatever it happens to be. So if we are aware of that program, we can then refer the client to, and usually an architect, to take a look at it. That be correct? Are you
Yeah.
understanding that?
That's the way I see it.
Okay.
And as Scenic Block Island, we've sort of tossed around certain roads, or do we do the entire island?
Yeah, that was
Do
another.
we do just state roads? Every road is scenic on Block Island.
No,
I don't think there's any that you could say
Except for
are not.
Chapel Street.
I think Chapel Street's got its charm. So that's something that would need to be decided too. Do we do the entire island, or do we just do certain areas?
I think you would have to talk to the town council about it.
Correct.
We don't have that kind of authority.
Right.
But we could make a recommendation that they look at all the state and local roads. 'Cause I don't see how you do one and not the other. If you want to be consistent in maintaining the character of the island, I don't see how you could say, yes, we'll do all the state roads, but the locals can do whatever the heck they want. I don't think that's feasible.
Oh, I agree.
Does Karen, does the DOT, like, would they even weigh in on a town road versus a state road? I could see someone needing to apply to the DOT for a state road, but what would trigger that for a town road?
I think,
If it's a scenic roadway and a town road,
yep,
is it still the same process? Where they
yes,
go-
if
Yeah,
it's
okay.
designated scenic, yes, same
I
process.
think
As long as it's designated.
It's
Okay.
advisory.
Yep.
Yeah, and they could turn it down, but they have to at least get the advice.
Got it.
Margie, if I
Yes,
can,
go ahead.
I may have spoken too quickly, but
I think we have a lot to process. That's why we're asking.
I got that. No, the thing I would like to repeat is that Mike DeLuca, who headed this entire system before, has talked to us and indicated that most of our roads already meet the criteria. So it isn't a complete redo of all
Right.
the roads.
What I would think I was heading, John, was how do we maintain it? This character that we like, that we want to keep. And I think one of the things the planning board is able to do is to direct applicants to
Absolutely.
these sources so they can see what would be appropriate if we, in looking at their design, realizes that what they're doing isn't really fitting with character of Block Island.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find out, is what we could do. Yes, your permissions and all, and your setup and everything's got to go through the town council, but on the kind of local level, the planning board can make recommendations that they look at, beds or get advice before they make their final decision.
So if this is, it's another, we get an application. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what, like you're sending something to the state, yet we're talking about local character. It doesn't make any sense to send it to the state.
No, we don't send it to the state. What I was saying is that if we wanted them to do a road that was a little more in keeping, we would have them talk to people upstate, but they could choose to accept or reject the advice that they're offered.
Right. I'm just looking for a set of criteria that can
Yeah.
be given to the homeowner.
Chris, I'm
I'll
wondering
link
if,
you to some info that I just looked up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, John.
I think one of the things was, for example, if a person builds a house and at the entrance to their driveway has a bunch of gargoyles built out of
Sure.
huge stone,
Yeah.
it's not exactly in the same vein that what we're looking for.
So
But
they could move
this
in from
gives
their
it some
entrance to their
teeth.
porch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at, this might help too. So under the regulations for this board, there is a scope. And it says included within the scope of the board's review are grade changes, alterations of vegetation, curb cuts and other accesses or entrances leading into the right of way of the scenic roadway, as well as roadway construction or repair. So those are the things they would review.
That makes sense.
I'm happy that.
This is gonna, the first part is just getting the designation, and we need you or the town council, the two of you working together to go through the application so we can get that designation. Once we have the designation, then the state will just help us steer people in the right direction, and I think the guardrails are like a really big deal. Once we have that designation, we can get rid of these ugly guardrails and get something more pleasant.
Okay.
I just find it amazing that you need a designation to paint a guardrail brown. I just don't
Also,
get it.
Mike, I was curious on the subject of guardrails. Do we, because some people might not want to spend the money. Do we need metal guardrails if the speed limit's 25?
That's a good argument. That's been my argument
Maybe
for a
wouldn't-
while.
Oh.
We need them. These guardrails are actually causing more injuries
Mhm.
than preventing. 'Cause we're dealing with bikes and mopeds, whereas
Yeah.
in the mainland, they're dealing with vehicles.
Yeah,
So
and the speed limit's 25,
I
not
would-
65.
Yeah.
I could see it like on Spring Street, because if you,
absolutely,
Loop
there's,
over these.
there's,
But you see
But I
where
don't-
you,
yeah.
where you have a steep, was it incline? Is that the word I want? Yeah, that you're gonna have to have
Yes.
guardrails, but if it's just a small little gully.
Exactly. My intention and hope is when they're replaced, they're with something that fits in better, but also eliminate guardrails that haven't been hit in 50 or 60 years. So that's part of the thought too. And I just think maybe with the designation, this might help a little more of the
Guideline.
push.
Kind of,
And as far as getting a brown guardrail or something like that, when you receive federal money, you do it their way.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the designation, yeah, they'll go brown. It's fine.
yeah.
But otherwise, it just sort of goes, yeah, that's many miles of guardrail to paint.
Okay,
And there's a Rhode Island Scenic Highway Stewardship Guidebook that I just emailed.
Yeah.
you, And
Yeah.
there's a lot of information in it.
okay, well,
It's-
That's what's needed to facilitate.
yeah, what we
That.
need now is to get the town
Fine.
council on board.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would propose that we, the planning board send a favorable recommendation asking the town council to consider designating both state and local roads for scenic Block Island.
You mean town roads?
Well, local roads, is that town roads? Town-owned roads, okay, gotta get the right term. State and town-owned roads, sorry. And the idea is that this would be a scenic highway designation. Is that the correct title?
Mhm.
Okay, want to make sure.
Never another comment.
Rhode Island Scenic Roadway Designation. All right, yeah, Cindy? Who knows?
I don't believe so. I think that was. I might have spoken when that was under the national.
Can I just ask that if you are speaking, you come up to the mic?
Oh, right.
Oh,
Can't hear
sorry.
you, Mike.
Sorry,
Okay.
Karen, I apologize.
Mike at the mic.
They can't, Karen cannot hear you talking unless you're at the microphone. Sorry, I should keep telling you that.
The question came from Cindy, if it would include telephone lines, utilities, burial of that. And I believe that is under national designation, scenic roadways.
One step at a
Let's
time.
get one of the.
And don't be too hasty about those telephone lines. During at the Sea Level Rise Committee, we had discussions about burying the telephone lines or about raising a road which has lines underneath and other equipment. Once you start messing with that, you have to do it all. It's all or nothing. And so it's not a quick and easy fix.
Okay, anyway, I've made a motion,
Second.
second. Any further comments or questions?
Oh, just one, Margie, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
I know we got an informative letter from Allison about the Federal Highway Administration Safe Highways. And I think she said in that letter that there is an opportunity for the public to be involved as early as September 9th, maybe, for pop-ups, information pop-ups
Yes.
at the post office and at the grocery store. And it might be a good time for this discussion to dovetail into that discussion.
We could certainly go,
So just to mention that.
okay, that's great. And maybe some of us will have time to go down and actually talk to them.
Yeah, because I think they're going to work on an action plan and
Yeah.
it would
And-
be important time.
Good.
That's all.
And just a quick comment regarding the guardrails, and I'm not kidding, even though I like to joke. If you do remove guardrails, save them and donate them to the nature conservancies, because we need guardrails along many sections of steep cliffs that are hazardous. And maybe that would be a good way to recycle them or repurpose them.
Okay, keep it in mind. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. It was a
Thank
good
you.
step to start with. Appreciate your coming and we hope we'll be meeting with you again sometime soon.
Soon.
Thanks. Okay, we have one set of minutes to approve.
And there are 9 scenic roadways in Rhode Island.
Oh, nothing.
Nine.
Are, Jen, are they mostly in South County?
Lincoln, Bristol, Middletown, South Kingstown, Exeter. East
Okay.
Providence,
All right. Thank you.
Charleston,
I don't know whether John needs any of that to.
none in Newport. Well, because they already have, they're just Newport. You know, they already have some very beautiful roadways, driveways. All right. I like going there in the winter. Just to look. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, I have minutes for July 10th for approval. I think they were emailed out.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve
Second.
July 10th. Okay, do I have a second? Any
Yeah.
corrections, comments?
No. look
All
good
those
to
in
me.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's the only set of minutes I have.
Give you two, one for June and one for July. There's a lot of information on the.
Okay, here's, all right, okay, here's the one for June 12th. I'll let Sosha make a motion because I was not here at that point. You make a motion to approve the minutes for June 12th.
Motion that we approve the minutes, for Wednesday, June 12th.
Okay, and any questions, additions, comments?
Second.
Chris seconds?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. You did fine. You do just fine. Let's read it off there. Okay. Oh,
So
I-
just to make sure now, I am not mailing the letter to DEM now. You're incorporating it into.
You want to work on, will you
Neon.
work on the letter tomorrow and
Yeah,
your notes and Socha's notes, and if you need me to get it in the mail on Friday, I'm just worried to send maybe my mom there.
okay. I should have time to work on it tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, I can incorporate it if you don't mind it going
Please.
under the, and I will,
That's fine.
I will change it slightly.
Fine.
Is that all right? If it's gonna bother you, pride of authorship, okay. All right. In that case, I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.